Welcome to another episode of Pottawattamie County Roots. I'm Todd Studer, and we are welcoming into the studio today our good friend Blake Hunter with Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices. Nice to see you, sir. As we're recording this, it's a little cloudy and damp and spring. I'm not a fan of this kind of weather.
I know we've been spoiled. We've had some really nice days, but according to everybody, we need some rain. So
Yeah,
here
we
we
had
are.
that. Yeah, had quite a bit of rain this morning.
Yeah.
On the drive in, it was raining pretty heavy on the windshield. But I am, as you said, it's what it is. This part of the world, we just got to live with it.
It's spring.
Yeah, people who say that, oh, I just love the seasons, they weren't talking about today.
No.
You've been working on a new development, helping the folks over in Treynor, and there's going to be some new lots available for people to build homes on. Is that getting close? Where are we at with that?
We're getting close. So many moving parts when it comes to a new development like that. This one's really special. I'm very excited to be able to promote this here and, really be able to promote this in the next few weeks when we have something to sell people. But we're working through all the things that, include covenants, include pricing, include all those things. And excited to, I'm sure I'll be back. And when we can really release all this information, have it on your show and get it out to the public. But yeah, we're excited. Like I said, we are at the beginning of April, and I think here in the next few weeks we'll really have something that we can show people.
My guess is a lot of those decisions, probably the vast majority of them, are done.
Yeah.
It's just you need to compile it in a certain way that makes it easy to understand. That you hand somebody a piece of paper that's nothing but legal speak, and it's kind of difficult to follow. So there's all of these different things to make sure that are in place.
Certainly, and there's I've learned so much through this experience. The developer, this has been something that's been going on for years. My involvement has been about a year, but it's the fine tuning, it's the making sure that everything is done the right way, and there's so many things that come up that you maybe didn't expect to come up through the process. Working with the city, working with the people that live around the development, it's a lot of work to get to a product that you can sell people, and ultimately a product that people want.
I'm assuming this is probably a little different than just selling an individual home somewhere in whatever neighborhood it might happen to be in.
Yeah, and you're talking, at scale here, over 30 lots. So you're doing a lot of repetition. I mean, it's just the matter of individualizing every single lot, the dimensions of that lot, all those things. It's a big deal, and I'm super excited to be part of it.
Are you getting much feedback from people? I mean, is your phone ringing? Hey, when is it available? When can we put in a bid, or when can we do this? Are you hearing that?
Yeah. We're starting to get, even months ago we had interest. When you're dealing with anything of that size, especially when you're in a small community, is dirt starts moving, people start asking questions.
Yeah.
And so, and there's already so much involvement from the developer in the community that most people knew what was coming down the pipeline anyway, especially in a small community like Treynor. It's pretty tight knit. People talk and they know things. And then as dirt started to move, as the landscape started to change, it's pretty obvious what's going on. And so yeah, there's been a lot of interest. The community of Treynor's been very good about it, and a lot of the interest has come from the community itself. And I've talked to some builders that are interested in being out there. So yeah, it's starting to build, and we're so close to just being able to just be like, let's get going, and let's get this thing done.
It sounds like then, from what you're saying, that there potentially could be some opportunities on the horizon for folks who want to purchase an already established home, because if people are inside of Treynor and want to move into one of these new homes, well, they're coming from somewhere.
Certainly.
So that might be available.
Yeah, there's going to be, it's going to open up a lot of different things. Obviously, the development will open up new construction opportunities, but like I said, a lot of the interest is from people that currently own a home in the community or maybe right outside of it. And so that will open up those existing homes for hopefully more people to eventually move their way into Treynor. Not only on the housing side of it, but the developer has a whole sports complex out there, so there's more amenities that are going to be there for the city of Treynor. and it's just a really like full encompass, like just community building effort built around the sports complex and the housing development.
I am not a real estate developer, but from the outside looking at this, I could see this becoming a bit of a template for other small communities that we have in Southwest Iowa that can say, look, this worked in Treynor. We can do something similar here. And because we find an interest in all of these small communities that people want to live there, it's just there's not a lot of availability.
Yeah. And I mean, and it takes effort. It takes real effort. The guys that are involved in this have been, like I said, I've been at this for years. And doing it the right way also takes a little more time. The great thing about this in Treynor is where it is located in the city. This isn't something that's done 2 or 3 miles. You can find farm ground. You can find a place to do this, but not always where it's connected to the community,
Right.
where people can walk to school. And so this is a great example of how well this can work for other communities, and hopefully it's a good example, moving forward.
And also a very good example of a community recognizing that young families need to be a very key component in what it is that you're building, because that's really what this is designed for.
Yep. And that's who's been interested. That seems to be really the demographic that I've spoken to so far. And I've also talked to several people that have just expressed interest that are maybe living on the outskirts, maybe on their farm. And they're like, we love where we live, but we just don't need this anymore. And we want to do something that's more, that works better for what our needs are, and not have to move, for lack of better terms, into the city.
Right. Yeah, Treynor's not classified as the city.
No.
Not at all. I also think that with the increase in population, and it's not going to be like double or something, but it's still an increase, it makes it more appealing for potential businesses to want to be in the area, because I think that's one thing Treynor lacks, is a robust business community. There are businesses there, and the ones that are there, I think, are doing well.
Yeah.
So add some more population, and now it becomes more appealing for other small business owners.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we can put a bakery here, we can put a florist here, we can put a small grocery store, or all of these different things that could happen based on this type of growth.
Yeah, and I think it's important to recognize that that it's not always the goal for more and more people and more things, because then what is the identity of that community,
right?
But I think that Treynor, like a lot of small communities around Council Bluffs, could definitely capitalize on a little more of all of that. And the nice thing about Treynor too is that you're 15 minutes from all of those things if you really want them.
Are you looking to grow your business or bring new jobs and investments to Southwest Iowa? Advance Southwest Iowa Corporation is the economic development organization for all of Pottawattamie County. Advance connects entrepreneurs, innovators, and established companies with resources, incentives, and strategic support to launch, expand, and thrive right here in our region. From site development to small business programs and community partnerships, Advance Southwest Iowa helps build a stronger local economy. Visit advancesouthwestiowa.com to learn more and get involved. Finding the right care for a loved one can feel overwhelming. Assisted Living Locators is here to help. Jean Bonker brings more than 30 years of experience serving families and has personally navigated the challenges of elder care. She understands the questions, the emotions, and the weight of these decisions. Jean becomes your advocate, guiding you through options with clarity, compassion, and personal support every step of the way. Call Assisted Living Locators at 402-690-5467 and move forward with confidence. Now, as those other homes become available and people are thinking about selling or thinking about buying, and what's going to happen is they're going to run a search on the property. They're going to run a search on the address. They're going to say, okay, what can I learn about this? We all know Google and we all know Zillow, and the first thing that's going to pop up on there is this thing that they like to call a Zestimate, which to me reminds me of a bar of soap. But how accurate is that thing? Anyway, because to me, it looks like it's all over the place. And I'm looking at this and said, how could this be right?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is sometimes it is pretty accurate. And I think that it depends on what you are using it for.
Okay.
If you're not have zero plans on moving and you're just curious and you want to look, hey, there's a range there that may tell you that what your house might be worth. And you could scroll down a little further and look at some comparable sales and tell yourself, okay, yeah, I'm kind of familiar with that house down the street that sold. I think my house is somewhat, in that price range. But you got to be careful because, I've had instances, and I've told you this before too, is I usually look at that before I meet with anybody because I know that that's a really good starting point for a lot of people. They usually do a little research on their own before I ever talk to them. And I've seen instances where it's way off, and and I'm talking 30 or 40% of what a property's worth, and I can tell that it's far enough before I've even stepped foot inside that property. So that's even subject to change a little bit more.
Is that estimating high or low?
Both.
Really?
Both. Yeah. So I've seen properties, if you've bought a home and say you've lived there for 5 years, and in that 5 years you've done some updates on the inside that have significantly changed the value, Zillow doesn't necessarily know that. And especially with our market over the last 5 to 6 years and just the steady increase in property value, sometimes sometimes it overestimates, sometimes it underestimates. And, when you're looking at a $250,000 house, and for example, Zillow is telling you that their estimate is $350,000. Well, we're looking at two totally different things. It's one thing if it's $20,000, on $250,000 or $300,000. We may be able to kind of figure out where that's coming up, with that extra or lower amount. But when you're talking $100,000 on 300, we got a problem. And so it's just important, and that's why it's important to actually talk to somebody that's in your market that can say, oh yeah, I actually showed that house down the street. Here's why this house sold for this amount. Or, I'm actually going to come look at your house today, and I'm going to walk through it, and I'm going to talk to you about some of the things why I think that that's not necessarily accurate. And there's so many things. You could talk about Zillow. You could talk about all the different tools that are out there for people to investigate. I even have one myself that I send out as a monthly campaign to clients that gives them an update on what their property value is. And sometimes it's not always accurate. But the key is that you look at that. If you have a question, you can reach out and try to get a more realistic answer.
I still get emails from this company called Redfin, and this goes back to close to 4 years ago when I sold a home. So I was trying to figure out what the value was, ended up on some type of email list, and next thing you know, I'm getting these things, and I'm still getting them. And I haven't unsubscribed because to me, I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah.
It's a curiosity thing. It's not based on anything, or there's going to not be any actions attached to it, but from what it's saying, the value of the home since 2022 went up another $35,000. Now, is that accurate or not? I don't know. For the people that bought it, I hope so.
Yeah.
That'd be great for them.
Yeah, and you're thinking, dang it, if I would have just held on to that property.
But again, I don't really know. And I didn't know going back then until I got somebody to represent me on it. And that was when I first learned that, okay, here's what it could go for. It ended up going for even more than that. But I didn't know.
Yeah, and it all depends on the market, right? I mean, you talk about timing and you talk about pricing. I mean, pricing is a real strategy. That it's not a suggestion. There's a reason why when I'm talking to people about pricing and why it's so important. And I think right now it's more apparent than ever that good properties priced well sell fast, and the ones that aren't don't. And so the market is just, there's not a lot of forgiveness in the market right now. And so, if you're looking to get the most money for your property, it's not necessarily just listing it at the highest price possible. It's having some strategy going into it. How do we capitalize on everything involved from the marketing to our price point to actually capitalize to make things work the best way?
Do you think that part of that reason about the lack of forgiveness is people have just gotten accustomed to there's not a lot of inventory, and I know that getting a place is going to be difficult, so I'm going to be a little choosier on my side. Does that have anything to do with it, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, on from a buyer's viewpoint, there is more inventory now than there has been in the recent years.
Right.
And so they have a little more, there's more options out there for them. It also, it's also costs more for people to get in to that house. So they are a little more specific about what they're buying because it does cost more. And so you think harder about the decisions you're going to make when when you were looking at your 3% interest rate and being able to throw money at things because it was affordable. I'll use that loosely.
Yeah.
It was easier to make fast decisions. You were like, hey, I can do this, no problem. And now when you're looking at a monthly payment, you're looking at what it's going to cost you just to get into the property. I've seen it for personally, and I've seen it through my clients, is this decision-making process has been slowed down significantly. And that goes back to, the selling side that is why it's so important that, number one, your price is set appropriately, but also that your house is ready for the market. And you just, you can't leave things undone and expect things to go smoothly because you left them undone. Where there was a time where it was like, get it on the market, just get it on the market. And now it's more like, if it's going to take you an extra week or 2 weeks to get things to the place that they need to be, take them because it's worth your time.
I know back when I sold, I'd heard that it was impossible to underprice a house because it was going to go into a bidding war and you were just going to see what happened. So that part of it didn't really matter, but I don't think that's so much the case anymore now, right?
No, it is really like, let's dial this in and find the right price point. I think it's still true that if your house is worth more, I know it's true. If your house is worth more than your list price, the market will take care of it. A buyer will pay more if they think that if they get there the first day and they're worried about somebody else showing up, they'll offer you a little bit more money. But if you're high and you go on the market high, it's hard for a buyer to come in and say, I'm not willing to pay that right now. And so then your house sits and you have maybe a few more showings trickle in. Maybe you're not even getting that much traffic because people are not coming to look at it. And in today's world, they're looking at it online first.
Oh, yeah.
There's nobody going, very few. I don't know if there's anybody out there really going to look at properties that, they haven't viewed online completely.
Right.
And so when you have someone come and look at your property physically, that's the second showing. So you're really getting somebody in the door at that point. They've already investigated it online. And if you're not getting them in for those physical showings, then they've decided without even looking at it in person that it's not worth the money. And so you really have a filter right there alone. And if you're not getting those bodies in and traffic in for showings, you probably need to make a price adjustment.
Your home for all natural health solutions in Southwest Iowa is Bambi's Green Acres Natural Market. Serving the area since 1997, Bambi is located at 805 South Main Street in Council Bluffs and has a wide selection of vitamins, supplements, essential oils, herbal remedies, and a lot more. Staffed with over 37 years of experience, Bambi is putting health back in your hands. Explore your wellness options online at bambisgreenacres.com. On Pottawattamie County Roots, we explore the places that make our region home and the people who keep them connected. That is why we are proud to feature Marnie Elkhorn Communications, your local communications provider serving Marnie, Elkhorn, Walnut, Avoca, and other Southwest Iowa towns with high-speed fiber internet, reliable phone service, and TV options built for rural living. With real local support and unlimited data plans, you get speeds up to 1 gig to work, stream, and stay in touch with family and neighbors. Visit metc.net to learn more and get connected today. You talk about online. How often does it happen that somebody will go into one of those AI programs and plug all of the stats that they can think of in about their house and say, okay, tell me what my house is worth?
Yeah, well, it's happening now and it's going to happen more and more. Both of us use ChatGPT daily for business. It's a great tool. But you got to be careful. and I've even seen it for myself, is that a lot of times it's going to tell you what you want to hear.
Oh, there is definite confirmation bias included in this. And I think that it goes back to social media, that it's just followed along that same thing. And I've seen this because my business partner here, Kyle, and I have both gone to ChatGPT asking it the same question and getting different answers based on what it knows about us, and because it's trying to tell us what we want to hear.
They said, great idea, Todd.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Now we're really getting somewhere. I see that all the time. Now we're finally getting to the root of what we're No, we're not.
Yeah. Great tool. But, recently heard of an example, buyer and seller, two completely separate parties of people, no connection, but they're negotiating over the same property. Have a seller, they go to ChatGPT, they're working through this deal, they're working through the negotiations of this deal, and the seller says, hey Chat, here's the offer I have on my house. Should I sell it for this price? And Chat says, no, your house is worth more than that. Do not sell it for that price. Here's why I think it should be worth more than that.
Which is what that person wants to hear.
Right. Now, if they're using the paid version, the unpaid version, I don't know that, but you can assume the worst here.
Mm-hmm.
Buyer asks the same question. Hey, I'm trying to buy this house. Do you think it's worth what I'm willing to pay for it? No, that's too much money for that property. So here you have Chat talking about the same property, telling one person it's worth way more and telling one person it's worth way less, and potentially ruining the entire deal. And you have a professional real estate agent in the middle of it that's saying, hey, I thought we were in agreement here. What's going on? And so, more and more people are going to ask those questions, and Zillow is integrated into ChatGPT. More people are going to start using Chat to search for homes. So instead of going to Zillow and looking at a map, they're just going to type into Chat, hey, I'm looking for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath that's in the Treynor school district. I'm looking for a fenced-in backyard, et cetera, et cetera. Boom. Here's the properties that meet that criteria.
Yeah, I have used it in an attempt to do research. We do a sports show here now. So I'll say, hey, I know this game happened, go out, and I can't find the results anywhere. And I said, do some research and see if you can find the results. And it'll come back with results that may or may not be true, with names that may or may not have played in the game.
Yeah.
And it is completely unreliable until everything has been verified. So, yes, it's a good tool as long as you're using it correctly. But there's a huge fear about it's going to replace employees. How? I don't see how. Because as you said, there's no consistency with it.
Yeah. And it is, even in the real estate industry, I can see how, you see all the headlines. There was a headline the other day, a guy used AI to sell his property, did it all. And then the backside that you didn't see is that he left a bunch of money on the table. And so it's it's just kind of comical. There's always those fears about, what is it going to take from where we are now? But the more and more I see that, actually, the more confident I feel in what I do on a daily basis. Yeah. And then the problems that, the problem solving that I do and the communication I do with people, I'm like, AI is not going to do this.
No, I get it with video shorts or even some longer form videos that AI generated script, AI generated voice, AI generated images, and it gets pushed out and it'll have all of these comments underneath of it as if it was an actual real thing. There's nothing real about it. Yeah. And same kind of thing with what you're doing. It maybe one day it's going to get better.
It's going to.
Yeah. But I don't see it there right now.
No.
Because my guess is you can spot an AI generated property description from a mile away.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially when you're not paying, when you're using the free version, a lot of the same words, you see a lot of the same characteristics.
Mm-hmm.
It's even with social media posts. I use it all the time, but you have to be able to go back and try to make it yourself,
Yeah.
It's a great writing tool. It's doing a lot better than I would just by myself, but also I don't want to lose me through the process.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you go back and make those things more your brand?
Yeah, I remember someone sent me a speech that she had written. She was going to be talking to a government entity in Australia, and she said, "Hey, what do you think of this?" I had AI write it for me, and I read it, and I said, "Well, it's English. Technically, it's saying the facts that you want to say, but there's no heart here.
Yeah.
There's no personality here at all."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure that this is going to come across very well. And I think that that's the case. A lot of times people think that it can write newspaper articles, or it can all of this different stuff. It resembles it.
Yeah.
It's a good imitation, but the heart is just not there yet. And I'm not sure how far away we are from it. But in the meantime, yeah, take your M dashes out. That just screams AI.
Yeah. I'm guilty too.
A dozen different emojis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I
Check
didn't
marks.
all the check marks and all of the different formatting and everything. Nobody took any time to do that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anyway.
Well, the worst is when you accidentally copy a little bit too much and it says, "Blake, what do you think about this one?" And then you accidentally leave that in your post. That's happened too.
Yeah, it's everybody's looking for ways to get things done faster and to be able to put out more content. And if you take your personality out of it and you take your authenticity out of it, it ceases to have the same impact. And I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here. You know this, that your number one product is you.
Mm-hmm.
And if ChatGPT comes too much into that, it ceases to be you.
Yeah.
So why get rid of your best product?
Yep.
Well, grateful as always when you take some
thank
time
you,
to come
Todd.
in, fill us in on what's happening around the housing market. Exciting what we're going to see in Treynor. And we want to hear about that.
We'll be back.
Want to talk about what opportunities are going to be for folks that want to live in that particular community. So
certainly.
So thank you so much. We thank you very much for watching this episode of Pottawattamie County Roots. As always, whatever platform you're watching it on, please click subscribe. Shares and likes are always very welcome as well. So I'm Todd Studer, and we'll see you next time.